Hey, I'm here to bring you your daily mental health enlightenment, and I received a request from a viewer to talk about the sandwich generation. So that is what we're going to discuss today. All right, so what that is when a person is sandwiched between caring for their children and caring for an aging parent. This is a person who is typically in their 30s or 40s. And so what I want to talk about today are some of the stressors that a person in the sandwich generation can experience, and then also talk about some ways to be able to deal with the stressors that come along with that. Okay, so we're going to talk about some of the emotional and psychological stressors. We're going to talk about the physical health related stressors, and then we're going to talk about the financial stressors that come along with caring for both your own children and an aging parent. So first off, there are a number of different emotional and mental health issues that we can point out. The first one is the tendency to be very overwhelmed by all of the responsibilities that you have. So you have to constantly manage how to prioritize the needs of your children versus the needs of your aging parent or an aging loved one in your life, because both of them need care. Both of their needs are important. And so you're constantly in this tango, this battle of when do I put my child's needs first and when do I put my aging loved one's needs first. And that can cause a person to be overwhelmed. And a lot of times that results from not trying to prioritize the needs, but trying to meet both needs at once, which then overwhelms that person that's trying to provide care on both ends. So it's important to relieve yourself of some of that stress and responsibility and give yourself the okay and go ahead to prioritize the needs and figure out which one needs to be taken care of now, which one can be put on the back burner, or which one you can give to someone else to manage and take care of. So related to that, stress and managing stress is something that's really important to keep in mind. It's important to be able to recognize and identify when you are becoming stressed by the circumstance that you're in. It's important to identify coping strategies that work for you. And then it's important to actually implement those coping strategies within your life. That is one of the biggest issues that I see with people. Okay, they know that they're stressed. They know what they could do to relieve some of their stress, but because they feel so overwhelmed and everything feels so pressing and like right now, they don't actually take the time to employ the coping strategies that they need in order to manage the stress that they're in. Another emotional or mental health issue that can come up from caretaking for both your children and an aging loved one is guilt that you feel, because you constantly feel like you're running behind. There's more that can be done. You feel as if you're insufficient to manage the job and the responsibility. So you feel like you're always dropping a ball here or there. And so there's this sense of guilt that you always feel that you're not doing enough, that you're taking away from your children's childhood because you have to be pulled away to care for your aging loved one. Or you feel the guilt of, my parent, they did such a good job of raising me and they deserve to have me there to take care of them, but my time has to be split between caring for my own child, and so there's this guilt that can come. And then what we know from guilt can be immobilizing. So what happens is you don't end up being as productive as you could be. You don't end up having the movement that you need to continue to manage all of your responsibilities, because that guilt comes and it overtakes you. Now, there's anger and resentment that can come from being the caretaker of your children and an aging loved one in your life. And so there's anger and resentment that can be there, which can cause you to begrudgingly care for those people. And although you're still providing care and you're meeting their needs, if you're doing it in an aggressive, abrupt, and begrudging way, that can still cause trauma to them. It can still not feel good to them. It could feel like I'd rather you not do it than have you do it in such a way. And then there's also the depression that you want to be aware of and you want to be mindful of. Feeling overwhelmed, feeling the guilt, feeling as if you're not good enough to manage and handle the responsibilities, feeling as if there are times when you just want to pull back and not exist so that you don't have to be faced with the responsibilities of managing those roles. Feeling sad, having times when you completely disengage, you're not motivated to do the things that you need to do. You're spending a lot of time doing meaningless activities or laying around in bed in order to avoid doing what you need to do. All of those things are depression-related signs that you're experiencing as a result of the pressures of caring for both your children and an aging loved ones. So that's a synopsis of some of the mental health and emotional stressors that can come along with that role. Now we want to talk about the physical health stressors. And primarily what we know is that when we are stressed, one, that there's this holistic perspective that we need to put a value on, the fact that there is a connection between your mind, your body, and your spirit. So when you are stressed, when you're overwhelmed with responsibility, that will undoubtedly impact your physical health. And so what you need to be aware of is how the stress of the responsibilities that you have is causing wear and tear on your body. The aches and pains that you feel, shoulders, neck, headaches, tension in your stomach, tension in your back, all of those are reflections of and physical manifestations of stressors in your life. So you want to be aware of those things and manage those things. You want to make sure that you are soaking in the hot bath, that you are laying with the heating pad when you need to, that you are getting massages, that you are getting enough rest so that your body can rejuvenate itself and isn't going all the time. The other thing is, especially when you're caring for an aging loved one whose ability to physically move is declining and you have to do more physical lifting and caring for them. You have to assist them with getting up. You have to bear their weight. You have to help them walk. You have to potentially assist them with changing a Depends or a diaper. You have to wash them. There's a lot of physical responsibility put on your own body. All of the bending, all of the bearing weight, all of the lifting. So you want to make sure that you also manage those physical issues as well. And what we know is that as soon as you hit 40, your body begins to turn on you. So you have aches and pains and you experience physical sensations that you never experienced before. Your body can't manage or tolerate all the physical stressors that it once could, so you have to be careful with your body. The other thing is that when you're in a compromised state, your body is more open and susceptible to obtaining some kind of disease. So you just want to make sure, again, that you are aware of the level of stress that you have. You manage that stress and then you manage your health. As you are caring for your children and your aging loved ones, you also want to make sure to care for yourself. Make sure that you're going and visiting your primary care doc. Make sure that you are taking and complying with the medications that are given to you. Make sure that you are eating a healthy diet, getting the amount of sleep that you need, taking self-care. That is important because that will assist with your physical health. Now, the last thing we want to discuss is the financial strain. One, whenever you're caring, the more people you're caring for, the more financial responsibility that you have. So, of course, your children are solely your financial responsibility. An aging loved one, they may have a retirement, they may have a pension, they may have Medicare through the government system. So they may have some level of financial support. But what we know is that oftentimes they don't have the level of financial resources that we'd like them to have for them to have the kind of lifestyle that we'd want for them. And so that means that we would be coming out of pocket in order to fill the gap and make sure that they have the kind of lifestyle that they want and deserve to have. And so that right there can be a stressor, because although I've heard some rich and wealthy folks say money doesn't make you happy, I'd like to be able to know that for myself. But money makes the world go round. We have to have money in order to have housing, in order to pay for things, in order to keep the resources that we have. And when you don't have money, and when you are afraid of losing what you do have that keeps your life stable, that can cause a great deal of stress. And so financially, you want to make sure that you are responsible with the decisions that you make. You want to make sure that you prioritize the needs, again, of both your children and your aging loved ones. You want to make sure that you are constantly being aware of the fact that you have these ongoing responsibilities. So in a moment, you can't just blow money without having planned for it. You can certainly, in a moment of self-care, in a moment of self-indulgence, spend money, but it needs to be something that is planned for. It cannot be something that is spontaneous, that was not in the plan, because then the long-term goals get distorted and then it creates stress for you. It's also important that while you are trying to manage the financial responsibilities in the moment, that you always think about the future, that you always focus on putting something away for your retirement, putting something away for your children's college fund, putting some money away for the burial of your parents. You've got to forecast those financial responsibilities that may come up in order to relieve that financial strain. All right, so that was just a crash course in what someone in the sandwich generation may go through, some of the stressors that they have, and ways to manage those stressors. All right, so what's the message? To think about mental health in a different way, a way that helps you to understand where you belong and how you can manage where you are now. And I'll see you next time.